Erin is a massive hurricane just off the coast of the southeast this evening, and it's very close to becoming a major hurricane once again. Here to give you the latest, we'll talk on current conditions with Erin first. We'll go over the latest from the National Hurricane Center next, and then we'll go over model guidance. Our main focus in that part of the video will be impacts. After we get done talking about Erin, there's a couple other areas to watch out here in the tropics. I'm not overly concerned about any of these areas of interest, but we certainly need to discuss them. And then a good part of the second half of the video will go into discussing our cold front. And folks, I am very excited to talk about this. This is a very strong cold front on the way for next week that's going to bring a significant cool down on the way for portions of the lower 48. So we'll dive into that also. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this evening. So this is Erin. Gigantic hurricane, has excellent outflow, it's ventilating well, it's a very healthy high-end category 2. And like I said, it's right on the edge of becoming a category 3 major hurricane once again, but it's already beginning to start to turn a little bit more out to the east now. So moving looks like more north-northeast. So it's beginning to make that turn, but this thing is huge. I mean, the outer edges of these clouds are from Bermuda, stretching all the way over portions of the southeast. And I'm going to draw on this a little bit and geek out a little bit here for a minute. So you guys, if you want to skip ahead, do it. If you want to kind of understand what's going on with the system, then stick with me for a minute or two. But obviously we have the cyclonic flow of the storm system itself, right? Spinning just like it's supposed to spin in the northern hemisphere. But if you look away, like out on the outer edges of this storm system, you got a lot of fanning out in the opposite direction. So it's kind of going like this, it's going like that. These are higher level clouds. So basically on top of the storm, air is actually moving anticyclonically. So basically air is rising, right? And that's just getting dispersed out. This allows for more air to rise. And if you remember, leading up to discussing what we're talking about now with Erin, but videos prior, several days back, we were speaking on the upper level pattern that was going to support a lot of ventilation, a lot of just air being dispersed away. We call that divergence aloft. And this is your prime, fantastic example of it in real time. Air is being actually dispersed anticyclonically. You might think, well, isn't that messing up the actual cyclonic rotation of the storm? Well, no, this is actually helping to aid to push air out away from the storm on top of the storm. So more air is rising, that air gets pushed away, then more air is rising. It's just a continuous cycle. So it helps to sustain convection and fire more convection. That creates a moist environment. We know these tropical systems like moist environments. So it's basically getting a little bit stronger, and has today. And, it might not bump up another category, but regardless, it's a pretty healthy mid-grade hurricane right now, and it's a very large hurricane. You might ask, why did this hurricane become so large? Well, it underwent an eye wall replacement cycle a few days ago. This really broadened the wind field, and when you broaden that wind field, it makes a larger hurricane. And also just because normally when hurricanes begin to gain some latitude, get further north, they get larger. Most hurricanes do that. But this thing, it just, some people get offended if you call a hurricane beautiful or something like that, because I know that they could devastate areas. But the core of this hurricane is safely way out in the ocean. So I feel a little bit more comfortable saying this, but this is truly a great satellite representation of a beautiful hurricane. I mean, symmetrical. Yeah, so there's a couple minutes of a guy that's passionate about weather geeking out about the look of a hurricane, but it does have that classic look. The only thing it's missing is a cleared out eye. If that was the case, this would probably be a category 4 or category 5 hurricane, but earlier today it did have a bit of a cleared out eye. So anyways, moving past this, what about the latest from the National Hurricane Center? First, I want to note we do have tropical storm watches up, extending from the southern areas of the OBX out of the Outer Banks, going all the way up into areas of the Tidewater, extending all the way up into the coastal areas of Maryland. This does include areas of Virginia Beach, Norfolk, all the way down the eastern coastline of North Carolina. Now, of course, these don't extend all the way down to Wilmington or anything like that, but did just want to throw that out there. We still got tropical storm watches up for Bermuda, but currently, as of the 5 p.m. update, this was still a 110 mile per hour Category 2 hurricane. That's a high-end Cat 2. It is forecast to bump up to a Category 3 sometime overnight. So about around 2 a.m., could potentially bump up another category, but in general, that's not gonna change a whole lot. This system will actually get a little bit larger, but it is just massive. I mean, just look at this thing. We got cloud-to-cloud connection with the trough up here up to the north. We got the high-level clouds actually meeting all this rain falling across the northeast this evening, but forecast will remain a Category 3 through tomorrow afternoon. Then it will begin to weaken. And folks, as it gets into this area, there's Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, the northeast. This begins to lose its tropical characteristics, and then eventually on down the road, once this gets way up in the North Atlantic, we can finally put Erin to rest. But some people have asked, could this bring some impacts to Europe? It probably could. A fantastic YouTube channel to watch for weather for Europe. It's called Weather Watchers. Big supporter of mine. I'm a supporter of his too, but it's Weather Watcher something, but definitely just type in Weather Watcher, and his channel is big enough to where it'll pop up on your YouTube search. But he does an awesome job with covering Europe weather if you want to tune into that. But last thing I'll look at as far as current conditions is the radar. And this is the radar out of, I believe, the National Weather Service out of Morehead City. And you can actually see the western edge of Hurricane Erin on radar. Here's an outer band right here. Heck, one outer band actually made it inland to North Carolina. And you see all these lightning bolts coming up on your screen. This is the meat of the hurricane here. And it's so far, offshore that you're not really seeing it very well. But here's a lot of the rain from basically the core of the system, but that eye wall, it's so far offshore that you can't see it, but it's out here. But you can see the edge of the hurricane on radar. Let's make this a little bit larger. It's just not close enough, but that looks like probably the eye wall is probably right in here, I would say. And these lightning bolts are probably from just outer bands from the northern part of the hurricane. But pretty impressive stuff. It's close, but luckily not close enough to bring significant devastating impacts. Now, we're already starting to see some coastal flooding in the Outer Banks. It's definitely bringing impacts already. And I am worried tonight. I'm worried that we're going to wake up and we're going to get some bad news out of the Outer Banks. I hope everything's going to end up being okay up here. But I've said this many times before. I do worry when we're going to get another landfalling hurricane in the Outer Banks. I just feel like that it ain't going to take much. So anyways, enough of that. Let's look at some model guidance. I'm not going to stay very long on this, but as we're waking up tomorrow morning, this is probably making its closest pass to the most eastern point of the Outer Banks, Cape Hatteras. And here it is, big hurricane just offshore, but it's going to miss comfortably, I would say, for the most part, to the east. But still bringing impacts already right now. And then this is going to race off, and we can finally say bye to this storm system. It seems like we've been talking about Erin for a very long time, but this will make a pretty close pass to southern New England also. Not close enough to really bring any moisture, but tomorrow evening, here's the hurricane here, and here's the outer kind of most northwestern portion of this storm system, and it's close, but definitely not close enough. Even Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, no rain for y'all. It looks like might get an outer band, but some strong gusty winds. Could get some 30, 40, maybe 50 mile per hour wind gust. But this thing then heads on out. We look at Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. Here it is. Here's the hurricane itself. This is getting into Friday midday. So in the next 36 hours or so, here it is making its closest pass Friday into Saturday. But it looks like model guidance is really locked into the idea that you guys are most likely, Newfoundland was the big worry, is not going to have to worry about the actual core of this system hitting you guys. It looks like the core of the system, I would say the people who got the most impacts from actual heavy rain, wind-driven rain, was probably back over the Greater Antilles several days back. But for the most part, the heavy rain part of this, the meat of this hurricane, I know I keep saying that, but like just the main part of this system is not going to really hit anybody for the rest of the life of this system. So that's good news, but it is going to be close enough to bring some strong gusty winds. And speaking of those winds, here's the latest Euro. And I mean, the most impact is going to happen right up against the shoreline. Okay, right here in this area. So the wind field is large enough, therefore will be close enough for the mid-Atlantic coastline, southern New England coastline to bring some strong gusty winds. Start with the Outer Banks, 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts. Obviously, the further east you are out, the more you extend to this nasty wind field, but even inland into eastern sections of North Carolina, some 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts are possible. Strong gusty winds up into the Tidewater, into the Delmarva. I would say DC, Baltimore, maybe, 30, 35 mile per hour wind gusts could be possible. But along the Jersey Shore, the shorelines of Delaware, Maryland, be aware. Like I said, the general theme, maybe a 30 to 40, maybe as high end as a 50 mile per hour wind gust. Jersey Shore, I mean, it really wants to hit you guys pretty hard with some strong gusty winds. Long Island, 30, 40, maybe a 50 mile per hour wind gust. Not a whole lot's changed from this since I made the video this morning, honestly. And here's a closer look at southern New England for my folks tuning in from this area. If you live in Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, you'll probably get the strongest winds. Cape Cod, 30, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gust is possible. Just a gusty, it's probably just going to be a very windy night, probably getting really into tomorrow evening. Across Long Island and the southern New England coastline, just a breezy day. It was already a cool, wet day across really fall-like across areas of the Northeast today. Tomorrow, you really won't see much rain, but you could see some breezy conditions, stuff like that. And, I've been trying to keep you guys up to date in Atlantic Canada. There's been times where I've been really worried about you guys. Other times, like right now, not so much, which is good. But I know you guys go off kilometers per hour. And, I would watch if you do live, in the southern shorelines of Nova Scotia, Cape Breton Island, these areas down here, I would certainly be aware of some gusty winds, maybe a 40, 50 kilometer per hour wind gust. But, I mean, that's you can definitely handle that, I know. But Avalon Peninsula, southeast Newfoundland, 60, maybe as high as a 90 kilometer per hour wind gust, not sustained gust. So the good news is it looks like this is going to miss you well to the south. So that's the good news. Now, storm surge, we certainly need to watch out for this. 2 to 4 feet of storm surge. This has not changed for the Outer Banks. 1 to 3 feet into the Sound area. Some storm surge could get going tonight across the Grand Strand all the way into the southeast coastline, North Carolina, up into the Tidewater, a couple feet of storm surge. One thing that has changed is they're going for some storm surge in the coastal areas of Maryland, Delaware, up into the Jersey shoreline, all the way, tucked into some of the inlet areas, just into the New York City area, maybe a couple feet of storm surge, a little bit of light pushing of water up into these areas. We'll see if they'll end up saying a couple feet of storm surge is possible for the Long Island coastline. We'll see, but you're going to notice the ocean's going to be rowdy. It already is in these areas, so we're going to get some pushing up of water for sure. So, and that is why you have a storm surge warning in these areas. Let's check some. Yeah, storm surge warning in the Outer Banks. So, like I said, a great channel to tune into right now. I think her channel is Tornado Pagey. I think that's it. Her name is Paige and Bryce. They're a couple. They storm chase together, and they are definitely an up-and-coming YouTube channel that's really popped off this year. They chase everything, even those smaller events that maybe some chasers don't chase. But they're out on the Outer Banks right now. Definitely follow their channel. I need to tag it. I think I have it in my recommended channels if you look on my page. In fact, I know I do. But definitely hit up their channel, guys. They'll be going live. So, yeah. Some graphics. I just want to show you some pictures here. Ethan, I know you folks in North Carolina know him. He runs North Carolina Weather Authority. I think that's what it's called. But he has a buddy that posted this picture, Jimmy Elliott. I want to show this. And you can already see it says waves breaking over the dew line in Hatteras now. A storm surge is working in. And so, they do have this dew line up, but I'm telling you, like I said, I hope that we don't wake up tomorrow morning with, like you see this house right here. You worry about stuff like this. I'm telling you, I would not build a house out on the Outer Banks. I'm not saying the Outer Banks ain't beautiful. It's a beautiful place. I've been there one time in my early 20s, and it was just, I was blown away. But it's a thin strip of land, guys. It really is. Now, I will show you also the latest graphic from the National Weather Service out of Wakefield, Virginia. And of course, they're just talking. Stop this if you need to read it. It talks about coastal flood warnings. You know, we got coastal flood watches. So be aware of a lot of water just getting pushed up into this area. And we do have a wind advisory for Elizabeth City into Norfolk. So windy, breezy conditions for sure. And we got tropical storm watches up against the coast. I'm sorry, warnings. Warnings, guys. Okomak, Norfolk, Virginia Beach. Tropical storm warnings are up. So, you know, expect north to northeast wind gusts of 40 to 50 miles per hour close to the shoreline. So, starting tonight. So be aware of this. Just wanted to show you some extra graphics. Let's see if we have any updated information. I always like to make sure we have the updated information. So let's check one more time. And yeah, same news. So the latest information about these other areas of interest out here. First one we'll talk about is this Orange X. Still has a 60% chance to develop sometime in the next 7 days. It's basically a very unorganized, huge area of shower and storm activity, disorganized shower and storm activity. And I do think that this has a shot to develop, but what I also do think is this is going to turn and continue to stay out in the ocean. That's the good news. And we do need to watch out for Bermuda, but we'll show you some model guides here in a second. One thing that's changed with Invest 99L is it had a look to it today that made us think that maybe we had Tropical Storm Fernand, but right now that's not the case. It has a 40% chance to develop in the next 2 days, 48 hours. So we're watching this wave, but it just doesn't look like this is going to make it. Basically, we have what we call a wind-breaking scenario from Erin. And when we have these huge hurricanes, they really come down and bring a lot of wind shear. And I just think that this is going to be working with a very unfavorable environment going forward over the next several days. So I do think it'll be short-lived, and no model guidance shows it developing any further than pretty much what it is right now. And I believe I did forget to pull up the satellite out here and what these areas look like. So I'll do it right now. Here it is. So this is Invest 99L creeping up on your screen. Healthy blob of convection. I do wonder if we wake up tomorrow morning and this looks a lot less healthy. But this is the unorganized area of stuff right here that's about to start to turn, more than likely to the northwest and the north. We'll have to see if this tries to get its act together, get more of a cyclonic spin to it. But anyways, let's go back to this. Sorry, I'm a little everywhere. Pulled this video together pretty fast. But the latest Euro with that area of interest that has a 60% chance to develop, it's right here. Let's see if the Euro does anything with it. Once again, it does not. Now, it does pop up a little low pressure here as we're getting into Sunday. Sorry, it was my little girl. That's the first time that's happened in a couple weeks. I got kids, by the way. I got 2 little girls, and it sounds like they might be in there fighting about something. So let me go on and get this video done. But moving forward, we get into, say, Monday morning. That hasn't happened in a while. But it's as raw as it gets, guys. And I'm definitely don't have my own Weather Channel studio or hear anything like that. I'm literally in my girl's playroom making a weather video. So occasionally you're going to hear a dog bark, some kids screaming in the background. Hopefully most of you don't mind. But this is what's left over the system. It really doesn't develop. Now, you want to watch this area down here. It looks like some shower and storm activity slipping into the Eastern Caribbean as we're getting into early next week. But for the most part, between now and the next 10 days, there's no development in the tropics, really, besides maybe what happens from that area of interest that has a 60% chance to develop. Now, what about the GFS? We got 1 week out right now. It's still loading. But what does it do with this area right here? The GFS has been a little bit more excited about developing this, and here it goes. And once again, it's going to do it as we're getting into Saturday evening. We got a 1,006 millibar low. So, you know, we could have a tropical storm that develops here, and we need to watch Bermuda. Bermuda's a speck right here. 999 millibar low. I would say it's probably a tropical storm. So this could be Fernand. And it actually develops into a hurricane as we're getting into next Monday. And I would say a 984 is probably a Category 1 hurricane and brings impacts to Bermuda if this is exactly the way it was to play out. This is not me saying we're going to get a hurricane that's going to hit Bermuda next Monday. This is just me saying this is what the model is showing. So one thing you take from comparing the GFS with the Euro is it takes the energy in the same area. It is just really different with the strength of the system. But it moves that, kicks it on out. We will need to probably watch Atlantic Canada on down the road, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, but I don't want to get too caught up into that right now. For the heck of it, I will show you guys how close does it get this system to y'all. And we just haven't gotten enough of the run that's loaded. Yeah, we do. Actually, we do. Yeah, it does. So, yeah, it has a weird-looking 976 millibar low as we're getting in the next Tuesday, blasting north at like neck break speed. And it actually looks like it does take this into southeast Newfoundland. So we might need to watch this next storm system for you guys. And now, is there anything behind this? The GFS was showing, for example, if you look at the 12Z run about a week out, it does like the idea of a lot of tropical energy. Now, sometimes the GFS does this, getting into the Western Caribbean as we're getting into the last couple days of August, and then, of course, it develops this into a massive hurricane in the Gulf. But listen, we don't need to take that serious at all right now. If other model guidance begins to lock in on this, then sure, maybe we do. But right now, don't take that serious whatsoever. What about the Euro ensemble? This makes up 51 members and develops many members. A lot of them are weak though, and it does take them in the path towards Bermuda, at least in this general area. So we do need to watch this storm for Bermuda. And who knows, maybe this gets close to the southeast, but there is something that's going to kick any kind of tropical activity away from the East Coast, and we'll talk about that here in a second with the cold front. So I will mention, though, the Global Tropics Hazard Outlook. This was issued yesterday, week 2 to week 3. So week 2, this is the 27th through the 2nd of September. It does say, hey, watch this area out here for a tropical wave, which is interesting because we're not really seeing any heavy signals for a tropical wave in this time frame in model guides right now. So that's interesting to watch. That has a 20% chance of tropical development. And then between the 3rd and the 9th, it likes the idea of maybe this wave getting a little bit further west. So it has a huge area of the MDR getting into the Southwest Atlantic highlighted, but it also has areas of the Caribbean and the Southern Gulf in early September. Now, in my personal opinion regarding the tropics, I do think we're going to have a break for a couple weeks, but that doesn't mean hurricane season's over. Now, the thing that I've been excited to talk about, this is the newly issued 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. Look at all that blue on your screen. 26th to the 30th, issued today. If you live in those blue colored areas, that's where you have a shot at below average temperatures. You live in the really blue areas to the point where you're in the purple area, that's where you have the chances of below average temperatures is pretty high. Pretty high. So I've never seen a map look like this in late August. Than to be this confident on a cold front on the way. And this is a cold front that could have kind of reinforcing shots behind it. I don't think this is getting talked about as much as it needs to be. And I understand Hurricane Erin's taking up most of the headline, but listen, this is exciting. Now, some people, I don't want to see this. They don't like cold air. Listen, this isn't 30-degree weather, folks. It's late August, for crying out loud, into early September. This is a fantastic thing to see. It's relief from the summer. It's going to make everybody want to go up to their 150-degree attic and pull down their fall stuff. I know I'm going to do it. So I'm a big fall weather fan. If you're new to this channel, I love to talk up cold weather, and I know that's not always going to bode well with everybody, but I'm just being honest. And then the 8 to 14-day temperature outlook, it continues to look cooler than average. It's the 28th through the 3rd of September. So we're getting all the way. Are we going to have a nice, cool Labor Day weekend for our college football fans out there? I'm a huge football fan. Let's hope. But look at this. Below average, chances of below average temperatures are there. They're high. So the best way to see cold fronts this time of the year is dew points. We're going to look at the latest GFS, and let's see if we have the most recent run. This is only going to go about a week out. So this is starting Sunday morning. You can see the boundary of very dry air and moist air. It's right into here. You can see the green areas here and the yellowish orange and maybe red area right here. So dew points, if you don't know, I'm about to tell you, is the best way to gauge how humid it is outside. Dew points in the 60s and 70s, that's pretty humid, especially in the 70s. That's like tropical. Dew points in the 50s and lower, That's more of a crisp, dry air mass. And that's what we like to see, like to feel once we get into fall and stuff like that. So let's start off as we're getting into Sunday morning, this Sunday morning, August the 24th, and we move this forward. We get into Monday. Look how this begins to sink southeastward, and then we get into Tuesday. Look at that. This is not only just, this isn't just like dew points in the 60s and 50s. A little break from the humidity. This is nice. This is dew points diving into the 40s. This is something that you normally see in October. This is how strong this cold front looks. And it just keeps looking more and more reinforced. Like the model guidance continues to double down on it. These aren't temperatures. These are dew points. 40s and 50s dew points wise, and late August this far south is quite ridiculous, guys. And I mean, this is diving all the way down to the deep south. And I mean, man, just what an air mass. Dew points in the 30s in the southern apps. Just unreal stuff, guys. And look, it has longevity to it also. We go all the way out to about 1 week from right now. And we got dew points getting into the 50s all the way down to the Gulf coastline, getting into the panhandle of Florida. A lot of people have been saying, bring the cold front down to Florida. Florida normally don't get their first cold front of the fall season until like October. So it's hard for me to believe it gets this far south. But man, there is just a really chilly fall-like air mass with this. Now, are you going to wake up to 45 degrees in Atlanta, Georgia? No. But man, this is wild to see. And honestly, I'm getting hype as heck about this. Now, what about the blend of all models? What is it showing as far as low temperatures? And we're just going to look at this. So these are low temperatures for Friday, next couple mornings. Very warm lows. But this is low temperature for Saturday. Sunday, you see how it's getting cooler up there to the north. Monday, look at that, 40s. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, next Friday, goes all the way into September. Well, goes all the way to the last morning of August. And man, it almost looks like you just go from summer to fall. But we know that's not the case. It'll change. But what about the eastern U.S.? This is low temperature for Saturday morning. This is Sunday morning. This is Monday morning. Look at these 50s all the way down to Tennessee. Okay, and look how it begins to chop down these temperatures all the way down to Georgia, the Carolinas, Alabama, and just look at the Ohio Valley, folks, the Midwest. We're going to get lows in the 40s for certain areas. You're going to need a jacket. Just phenomenal stuff. So that's all I got, guys. Folks, I kind of winged that video, put it together pretty fast, so it was just more of a going with the flow. You got a kid screaming in the background. You had a door creaking just a second ago, so So going forward, I do want to mention, we will really begin to move past Erin starting tomorrow. This was probably the last. Honestly, I would say this morning was probably the last, but this was probably the last super detailed update on Erin. I mean, Erin's about to start moving away, quite literally starting to move further east now. I wish you guys the best of luck, in the Outer Banks up to the Tidewater, heck, all the way into southern New England. We're very lucky with this storm system, guys. If it wasn't for the trough digging down into Atlantic Canada and stuff like that, which is bringing the cooler temperatures for you folks, then this probably would have went right into the East Coast. So the main focus going forward is continuing to watch these other areas of interest. I'm going to really start to double down on this cold front because personally I'm pretty excited about it, and I know it's going to get a lot of other people giddy about it. And I will continue to watch the tropics going forward. Well, if there's any signal that creeps up that looks significant, we'll watch it. But I just want to say thank y'all for following me over the last several days with figuring out Erin. It seems like we've been tracking Erin for 15, 20 days. Maybe we have been. And listen, you got to tip your cap to model guidance. I think models have definitely improved. Some people are going to totally disagree with this, but it just depends on the way that you look at models. If you're looking at them and you expect perfection, if you look at them and you're viewing them as a forecast and you're looking at them wrong, I hate to say it, but it's a you thing. And I reiterate this a million times in my videos. The reason I compare, that's the reason why this video is about to be 30 minutes long, right? But the reason some of these other videos are so long is because I compare multiple model runs. I don't just pick one model run and stick with it because it shows a worst case scenario or a scenario I favor or something like that. I compare it all. And then we kind of see if there's something kind of coming together, almost like an average of all model guidance, right? And we also look out ahead as the environments support what the models are showing. So just want to throw that out there. So if you think, I just went through hundreds of comments over the last 2 days, dating all the way back to last Friday. One of the most common comment that I saw was, why are these models all wrong? These models are horrible, this, that, and the other. Well, they did excellent with Erin. They did excellent. In my opinion, yes, this tugged a little bit further west than for our liking, but you cannot expect perfection from them. National Hurricane Center, they did good. If you don't agree with that, hey, we'll just agree to disagree. But Model Guys has improved. You know, you don't look at like a long-range 330-hour out GFS run with a hurricane slamming into Texas and lock that in your brain and tell everybody and your cousin's uncle's dog's brother that there's going to be a hurricane that's going to hit Houston, Texas 330 hours out. What is that? I don't know. Like 13 days from now. That's not what you do. So, you know, it's my job to relay the message to you guys, and other people's job too. But it's also you guys' job as a viewer to make sure you're not taking in the information wrong. You know, I read a lot in the comments too, like people putting words in my mouth, saying that I said something that I didn't say. They kind of twist your words up. They kind of just hear what they want to hear. And that's a big thing with anything in life. Politics is a huge one with it. That people just want to believe what they want to believe, whatever backs their agenda, whether that's political or something else, whatever backs them. You got to be open-minded about certain things. Certain things, for me specifically, I'm pretty closed-minded on. But for most things, I'll hear you out, see if it makes sense to what I think, and then we'll move forward after that. So sorry for the rant there. Had a little time just to talk to you guys. You know, 95% of the comments was positive, but the 5% of comments that weren't, they were absolutely brutal. So just the way it's going to be. That's the nature of doing what I do. I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. God bless y'all. And we'll do it all again tomorrow morning. God bless.